Welcome to the Philadelphia Inquirer's spring training preview. I'm Scott Lauber alongside Matt Breen and Bob Brookover. And guys, we're headed down to Clearwater, Florida for the Phillies pitchers and catchers. And we're going to get our first look at a Joe Girardi spring training, what that will entail. Matt, what's your sort of expectation for what we might see in the coming 6 weeks from a Joe Girardi run camp?
I think it's going to be quite different than what a Gabe Kapler camp was, and that's what we had the last 2 seasons. I think the Phillies hired, the best way I can say is they hired a baseball manager. They hired a traditional guy to come in Philadelphia and run the baseball team the way that we expect it to be run. It's not a sociology experiment, for lack of a better term. And Joe Girardi comes with experience. He's got a World Series ring, great career as a player, lengthy time in New York as a successful manager, and I think you're going to see a traditional spring training.
I don't think it's going to be that much different. The workouts themselves, the one thing you got to remember is they have the same bench coach, and the bench coach organizes spring training typically, and that's Rob Thompson. So the way camp is run, and Gabe's camp wasn't all that unusual the way things went during the day, but with Rob Thompson running it, he's going to do many of the similar things he did. What's going to be different is the news conferences. They'll be much different. Joe's going to be more guarded, I believe, than Gabe ever was. There won't be, people saying, what is he saying that for? What does he mean by that? That part will be more normal. But I think the camp itself it'll look very much like what Gabe Kapler's camps look like.
I agree with you. I think the mechanics of drills and what goes on the fields, I think a lot of that might not be much of a departure from what we've seen the last 2 years. But you talk to people who've known Girardi, who've played for him before. David Robertson comes to mind. Didi Gregorius, when he came here for his press conference in December, got asked a lot about Girardi. And what you hear a lot of is, he respects his players. He demands respect in return. That he's a kind of a traditional guy who understands analytics but knows how to blend the two of them together. He's not off too far on one side or the other. It sounds like, for lack of a better way to put it, maybe kind of a return to normalcy, so to speak. That some of the things that Gabe Kapler tried, while they weren't necessarily right or wrong, were definitely different from anything a lot of people had seen before. And I don't know that Girardi's going to elicit that kind of reaction from his players. I think anything he does, anything he says is going to sort of be more by the book, more traditional of a baseball manager than some of what we saw from Gabe Kapler.
The drills might be the same, but let's remember there was a B-Bowl t-shirt on everybody's locker in 2018. During Grapefruit League games, the left fielders and right fielders switched spots. There was a curated playlist outside booming all day during workouts by the manager curating the playlist.
Those things are going to be different. Yeah, it's going to be much more normal now.
Every morning of everybody's performance from the day before that was supposed to mean that it was supposed to make an impact.
Right.
To walk in and see your picture. There was Hulk Hogan giving motivational speeches. The drills might be the same, but let's not forget there was a ton of different things.
That was more behind. That was more behind the scenes things, though. I'm just talking about what the people will see on the field.
Atmospheric.
No, there's
umpires doing
those theatrics are going to be gone.
Remember,
Joe Girardi's not theatrics.
There's no umpires going to be looking over bullpen sessions. That's what I mean when it's going to be normal. It's going to be more traditional. There's not going to be all this fluff. And that's what
Joe Girardi came from New York, but we're going to be off Broadway now.
I think one thing that we're going to talk about a lot in spring training and as the year unfolds is how much difference does a manager make at the end of the day in terms of wins and losses. So does a good manager win you 3 games a year, 5 games a year? Because look, they signed Zach Wheeler, they signed Didi Gregorius, and then they signed a whole bunch of veteran guys to non-roster invites, and they've tried to sort of strengthen their depth as opposed to their core. Their big move, let's face it, in the offseason was firing Gabe Kapler and hiring Joe Girardi, and they've got to get from 81 wins to roughly 90 wins to make the playoffs. How much will the manager help them get there?
I don't, go ahead.
I ask you guys a question on that. If you go the last 2 years, can you name a player that progressed under the former coaching staff? And when I say, I mean Gabe Kapler, Chris Young, and John Maley.
Probably Scott Gingrey. That's about it, right?
That's about it.
I think.
So
Yeah.
that's a big bet that they hired not only a new manager, but a new hitting coach, new pitching coach. So if you can progress Nick Pivetta, Vince Velasquez, that's who's going to be in charge of that is this new coaching staff.
I don't know if that takes you to 9 wins to the 90 wins you're looking at, but maybe if Joe Girardi can add 3 or 4 wins, and good health can add 4 or 5 more wins. I mean, they really were very unlucky health-wise last year. If they can have better luck in that department, yeah, 90 wins are a possibility. But this division, even though the Braves lost Donaldson and the Nationals lost Rendon, this division's bare, and it's not going to be easy to get to 90 wins.
It is. You've got the defending World Series champs. You've got the 2-time defending division champs. And oh, by the way, the Mets were better than the Phillies last year, too. So they've got to get 9 wins better, and they've got their work cut out for them because they've got 3 teams to jump over.
And the team they couldn't beat was the Marlins, and the Marlins have actually gotten better. They've become a respectable team at least, and they couldn't beat them last year, so they'll get a quick look at them.
They got Sean Rodriguez too.
They did.
Right.
They're waiting for him in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they sure are. And it's going to be up to Joe Girardi, I think, to kind of get the most out of some of those guys who regressed as opposed to improved from 2018 to 2019.